What is the aim of everything that we're doing, and not just, let's learn some skills. The skills are really useful to have, but it's also, let's look at the bigger picture here. What are we actually trying to do with people that we're working with? And often that is looking at, well, let's figure out what this person wants and how can we support them with that. And I think sometimes that message gets lost within the system, and we can look at, how can we make people healthy, or how can we make people functional? So I guess those things are really, well, isn't that kind of what we're looking at as a society? Is that really what this person wants? Or is what they see as healthy and functional, is that the same thing like what we see? So, I guess like coming back to that and really teaching, I guess, that maybe value system there. So that's what I really like doing, yeah. But I think also the building the independent relationships with my students. So I really like taking the time to guide my students, and if anyone's struggling, I always encourage people to reach out to me as well and do individual coaching, or even if they have some ideas, if there's something else that they want to learn, we can set that up, we can look at that. So I do like having that interactive learning as well. So I teach the Certificate 4 and Diploma of Mental Health, but I also do the enterprise training programs. So that's where businesses can pick out one or a few units, or all units out of a course that they want to bring to their employees. So that's part of what I do as well, and I really love doing that. So when I was 16, I had a cleaning job back in Belgium, and that was in a psychiatric facility. And I became really good friends with lots of the patients. And that just really showed me as well, because I guess I had maybe grown up as well around that stigma around mental health, and just thought it was this really scary dark cloud that can get those unlucky people. And from being there, I guess I really learned, like, wow, no, these are people like you and I, and I just really learned to connect with those people outside of that mental health aspect. And I think people really liked that they could talk to me, because I was just there as a person. I wasn't there to diagnose them or observe them or anything like that. So I think, yeah, that was really great for me to be able to experience that. Being able to talk to support workers about this, about mental health and about what we can do, is really valuable, because those are the people that can really make a difference. And often those are the people as well with their own lived experience. But I guess people have been taught sometimes to hide it away, and we're not supposed to talk about that. You're supposed to be the expert, you're supposed to be professional. But really we're actually all people, and if we can just connect about the things that make us human, and if we're learned to talk about things rather than to hide it away and to feel shame, it can be just, yeah, really useful. So I guess this is why I thought, if I get into training, that's actually a message that I can bring on board as well. And obviously teaching people the basics around mental health as well, and making sure that people feel confident to go out in the field and to do their own thing. Because that's what I find as well. You can meet these people that they would be so great at mental health work, and they just think, no, I don't know anything about that. But I'm like, no, you do. Like, you've got the life experience. That's all you need. Well, not all you need, but you also still need to obviously learn a bit how to frame that, and how to actually put it into action, and put that, what you've already learned, into a useful framework for people. So I guess, yeah, that's why I thought, going into training can actually be putting that into use for me as well. Yes, I do think that mental health is becoming more accessible. So I think people are starting to see it's a problem for all, not for those few unlucky people. I think, yeah, we're starting to recognize that we can all struggle, and I think that would have been the struggle with COVID as well, is that so many people actually really struggled with that loneliness, or maybe having their usual coping strategies taken away from them. So many people are used to going to the gym, going to clubs, going to a bar, talking to friends, hugging friends. All of that all of a sudden was taken away from people, and so I think that was a really big wake-up call for people, that maybe they were vulnerable as well. And so I guess in that sense, yes, it is becoming more accessible. There's also, obviously there's different initiatives out there, different structures as well within mental health, like recovery houses, recovery colleges, that take a very different stance to mental health. It's not about we have to lock people away and get them better. We can actually work together with people, and if we educate ourselves, educate people about mental health, people can help themselves. And I guess that's the nice message that is coming across there as well. With the Certificate 4 and the Diploma of Mental Health, most of the jobs that you would be looking at would be support work roles, which are really useful, and there's different layers in that as well. So you can be a support worker and a key worker, which means that you're actually the key worker person for a person along their journey within a service, which is a really valuable thing to be able to do. That means that you're the person coming up with the plans, coming up with the recovery goals, you're guiding that person along their journey. So that's mostly of what I've done within my roles in mental health. So I think sometimes when people have this goal of becoming a counsellor and everything, or a psychologist, those are different degrees that you'd be looking at. But the nice thing with support work roles is usually that gives you the chance to really build up those relationships with people, and you're there for that daily support. It's, you're anxious to get to your doctor's appointment. How are we gonna get you there? Does it mean that we work together on, let's talk about your anxiety, let's talk about, do I need to come with you? What other support can I offer? We're looking at all those things. Well, yes, you might not be delving into the deep trauma of a person, but there's so many other things that you can do that might be equally or even more valuable to that person. There's the written assessment, so there's always written assessments with each unit, and then you would have case studies as well at the end of the unit, so that you actually put into practice, theoretically still, what you've learned, but then there's also the practical components. So you would have things like role plays, or you might be working on some plans, things like that. But then there's also the placements. So I'm also the placement coordinator, and so I help people who study with us to find the proper placement for them. So, which is really exciting because there's lots of different places that people can go to, and that's the actual real experience that they're getting. So obviously that's a really great way to learn as well. So for instance, you can study mental health certificate first, and then you study the peer work units. So then at the end, if you first study the mental health course and then you do the peer work units, that means that you have both the mental health certificate and the peer work certificate. So you can sort of build on your skills that way. You can also, for instance, study the AOD units after. You can't just really switch out units that much, because that would mean because you have the core units of a degree, so you can't really switch those out. But you can definitely study one first and then add on other units to build on your specialty. I had some experiences where I was, I guess, in counselling and maybe didn't find whatever people were offering me very useful. And that was part as well because maybe I wasn't ready to hear it. But I also think there was different things that could have been offered at those times. So I think, things like peer groups are really useful. You have grief groups, you have hearing voices groups. Those are hugely beneficial. So those things are definitely something I think that there can be more of a focus on. So I think personal experience, but also I've met some people along the way. I have some really good friends in the field of mental health who I have similar views to, and we learn from each other. They tell me about their experiences and I can tell them about mine. Yeah, so it teaches you the units that you want, so you get all the skills from the units. But I guess something as well that trainers do is you're coaching people for those professional skills. So one of the things I ask students as well is to send me professional emails. And just make sure that in their interactions with me and with their classmates that we're all being professional, because this is a professional environment. This is not where we come to chat about our own problems, I guess. We can in a certain extent, but I guess we also can look at it as a mock work placement, so we can actually practice everything that we will have to be doing in this place of the classroom, which I think is really valuable as well. So I think that's an added value that people get from doing these courses. So students graduating from the diploma and the certificate 4 in mental health, they can look at lots of different mental health jobs. So usually I tell people as well to have a look at, for instance, if you go to Seek and you type in mental health worker, recovery worker, support worker, advocacy, anything like that, and just have a look as well at what's out there. And usually all those courses, all those jobs would be fine as well for a student to look at from a Cert 4 and diploma level. I guess that people have expectations of this, so people might think this is a guarantee for a job. It's not a guarantee for a job, so there's some things that you have to do as well to be able to get work in this field. So you need to make sure that you're networking for yourself and that you are continuously improving yourself. So going to different trainings, finding out workshops that you can go to. Those things are really useful. So it's not just this training. So I think managing expectations is one. Secondly as well, it is something you have to think about. This is not an easy field to get into. It is mental health, and there will be really challenging times. And I think people we build on that in the first 2 units as well with people in the courses, just to make sure that people are prepared as well for what they're getting into and that they know what they're getting into. So I think that's definitely something to be aware of. But yeah.